I recently just finished Resident Evil 4, and I've got to say it's a brilliant remake. I didn't really play the original, but I played enough of it to sort of know what it feels like, and it really does replicate that feeling. One thing I am now wondering is what the Resident Evil 5 remake will be like. I'm assuming there will be one. Actually, has it been confirmed? Let me check. Yet to announce. Capcom is yet to announce. Okay. I mean, they're going to. Resident Evil 5 was like the best selling in the entire series, so they're going to remake it. Like, that is to be expected. Now, I've just got a list of different things of changes that I sort of expect and am hoping for within Resident Evil 5's remake. Now, I still expect it to be a co-op game, first and foremost, but I hope that it is in single player actually plays like a single player game rather than a game where you have to babysit another character. Make it so Sheva can take a couple hits and regenerate health over time rather than you have to use your med kits and herbs and all that on them, and make them more or less capable of taking care of themselves, and have the same sort of system you had in Resident Evil 4. You get to get Ashley to, go far back or stay close, which the original Resident Evil 5 had, so that's not going to be an issue. And Resident Evil 4's AI, especially the remake with, what's his name, Luis, is really good. So I'm hoping they base Sheva off that in single player. Or Chris, you might still be able to pick. I don't think that is a good idea, because Chris is, the long-running series character, but I don't know. Now, one thing I am excited for is to see the Wesker boss fight, because there were 3, and the one I'm most excited for is the one where Wesker fights with Jill, because it's a 2v2 fight, and it's brilliant. And just after playing the Krauser fight, and just how that is, I'm super excited to see what fighting Albert Wesker is like in a Resident Evil 5 remake. Now, the one thing that I'm curious about is the soldier enemies, because most of them had AK-47s, which isn't scary. They went from being, people puppeteered by parasites to they have Kalashnikovs, and you have to take cover. It became Gears of War. But I don't think they should get rid of the guns. So what I'm saying is that they should give them World War II, World War I era weapons, like sort of rifles, bolt-action rifles with bayonets. So they can fire, and it's like a single shot. So they fire, and it'll give you a prompt to dodge, but they'll do that rarely enough, and then they have to reload, so they can't... And they still have the bayonets, so they'll still charge, they'll still fight in melee combat. I feel like that's just the best of both worlds. I'd like bigger missions, because some of Resident Evil 5's original missions were really short. So some missions, shouldn't be lengthened out a lot. Like there's this one where you're on a boat, that should not be lengthened because it's already quite long. But like the first couple missions were really short, and there's some in the middle of the game that are quite short. And I'd like them to be more open, and I'd love to see more little mini bosses hidden around. Keep the grid-based inventory system. Resident Evil 5 didn't have it, but I think it should. It just makes sense to me. The minigun heavies from the original Resident Evil 4 were replaced with these like arrow launcher ones in the remake. I don't think you should do that with the ones in 5 being remade. I think instead they should have flamethrowers. Just it fits more with the military-esque style, because in Resident Evil 4 they were more of a militia. In Resident Evil 5 they were more of an organised army, despite still being controlled by Las Plagas. More weapon variety for the tribal enemies, because they really only had spears and the occasional shield. And some archers with explosive arrows. I'd like to see some regular archers. But yeah, give them clubs, heavy stone axes, etc. Just give them a little bit more variety. Keep some of the original Plaga enemy types, because in Resident Evil 5 it actually lacked Plaga variety. Like for sort of the more basic kind of stuff. I mean, it had one that would like burst out of the head and fly, and one that was essentially like the normal one. But it didn't have that sort of basic type, and I think those sort of basic ones should remain there as well, and have the ones introduced in Resident Evil 5. Make Ouroboros look more like Los Plagos. I mean, it's not, but it's derived from it. So make it look less like black jelly and look more like sort of red and organical. Less like worms and more like a parasite. Remake Irving's boss fight to make him like a bit of a almost a fish. Maybe fight him in the boat in the swamp section. That would be great. Sort of more in line with Ramon, except, you know, water instead of the castle, like he was in the original Resident Evil 5, was very similar to Ramon. Get rid of New Desu. New Desu was a really sort of strong El Gigante. Just call it El Gigante and make it like you fight it like an El Gigante. You can make it a bit stronger and have the other stuff come out, but like, don't do it again with the turn section, because that wasn't very fun. Well, it is, but on replay it's just a pain in the ass. Make it so the Reapers, the giant cockroach enemies, can go invisible and even fly like the Novistadors. Give them something unique, like their combination between the Regenerator and the Novistadors, because otherwise they're worse regenerators. Because they can generate, but you don't need an infrared scope to shoot their weak points, and they only have 3. 2 on their arms, and then 1 on the chest that opens up after you shoot the ones on their arms. So make them go camouflage and hide. Get rid of the insta-kill attack, because that was always annoying. Make them grab you and you have to stab them or fight out. That would be my suggestion. And a co-op survival mode, which sounds a little out there for Resident Evil, I suppose. But that's more just me. I'd really like the sound of that. That's not like something I expect to be there, but like, please Capcom, please. Because like, the combat is just so good in 4. And it would be fun to have, like, instead of... Well, I still want mercenaries, but I'd love... And co-op mercenaries, but I'd love one which is, you know, wave by wave, where you didn't have to worry about a timer ticking down. It was all about surviving against enemies. That would be fun.